Hey guys, hey people, how are you doing? It's another session, and today again I'm going to focus on lithium. Frankly, I did want to move on. I wanted to sort of focus on other investments and other themes, but it's just that lithium is so current and in the news, and especially with respect to exciting investments like Vulcan Energy Resources. I mention this one again because I think it's one of the most relevant in Europe right now. So getting into things, I'm going to go through a few trends. So this last few weeks, we've had a number of developments. For example, European Lithium made a deal with, I think, the Vulcan Group, a Saudi group, to develop a lithium hydroxide plant. And another one, European Metal Holdings, recently had the Czech Prime Minister visit their site in the Czech Republic. Again, this is demonstrating, in my view, commitment and signaling the importance of the industry, the state support, and various stakeholders around it. I think it's Savannah's mine in Portugal got its environmental approval, lithium mine again, and that's positive news for the EU and the industry there. ExxonMobil recently announced that it was also getting into the early exploration business, in particular with brines in North America. And the International Energy Agency continues to put out bullish reports in terms of the growth of EVs globally. Latest one being that I think this year 1 in every 5 cars sold will be an EV. So in general, I'm just quoting facts, I'm quoting observations. Draw your own conclusions, but the conclusion I draw from this is that we see a continued momentum, a continued trend towards growth in EV adoption, and behind that, development of the resources, and in particular, the importance of lithium. Now, there's news about the debt ceiling, inflation, and all of these things. And yes, I've mentioned this before, macroeconomics, there are cycles, but in general, when you look at the long term, if you, let's say you take a slice over 100 years, the trend is pretty general, and what things we see in the eye of the storm is significant. Actually, longer term, the deviations smooth out. Right now, Vulcan Energy Resources, disclosure, I have a big investment in these. I'm very bullish. Again, these last few days, they have put out more announcements in deepening their relationship with Stellantis, this time in France, helping to conduct a study and set up a geothermal plant there to help Stellantis with its net zero strategy, roadmap, and targets. In addition to that, Vulcan is also looking for the future at developing resources in the French part of that, in the area of France, in that kind of Rhine districts or area, or whatever the terminology is, without offending anybody. So that is, again, it's a positive signal. The Vulcan Energy Resources price, as we discussed in a post I did a couple of weeks ago, continues to float down. Various factors behind that. As I mentioned, it's tax loss selling season. It's a trend, it's bots, it's fear, it's an understanding that the size of investment that is needed in total, I think in excess of €1 billion, will require debt finance, will require equity raises. regardless of the fact that the project NPV is projected to be 2.7 billion euros post-tax. So there is fear, and there are writings and circumspection about the complexity of the whole process. Nevertheless, we just have to stick to facts. We have to stick to what the company has achieved, what it has announced, and how it's going in line with its milestones. And from my perspective, I mean, the communication from this company is excellent. That's why one of the reasons I'm a big fan. I believe in the management, the integrity of the management, and they continue communicating and informing their shareholders. To me, that's a really big plus. In addition to that, you have a company now where I think, us looked, you know, the market cap, let's say around the 400 million euros. I think they've got cash of well in excess of 100 million euros. So the kind of net enterprise value is even lower for a company aiming at such a huge NPV project for phase one, and expecting to start production, let's say around 2026. So again, I'm just updating and reiterating information that's being released and coming out. Sure. One thing I'd like to mention is all of us have biases, right? So even myself, as I've disclosed, I'm invested in this company. I have a bias. I want the company to do well, and there is a risk that one falls in love with the stock and ignores facts and trends and what have you. However, given the industry that I come from, due diligence and risk management is a core part of the business, okay? And I can tell you now, companies like Stellantis, they do not make partnerships, they do not invest tens of millions, hundreds of millions of euros or dollars into other companies, into other technologies, into processes, without having done extensive due diligence, without having hired the best advisors. I'm talking technical, environmental, and financial and process-oriented third-party independent advisors to assess the processes of another company like Vulcan. You just do not, you do not sign MOUs, you do not sign agreements, off-take agreements, you do not take ownership stakes and provide equity without doing significant due diligence. And Stellantis is a multi-billion euro company, and one of the most important companies in the automotive industry for Europe. So that's another plus, I would say. It's easy for punters and tweeters and everything else to point to difficulties in this process, or they heard this about the mines and the quality, or the environmental issues. It's really easy as lay people or people at a distance, right, without the full understanding, to allow our imaginations to run wild. Risks are definitely there. Don't get me wrong, but what I'm telling you from an industry background, these companies that have gone into offtake agreements and taken equity holdings do not do so without an extensive due diligence process, without having third-party independent advisors advising at every stage. So it's a thorough process. It's not just a wing and a prayer. It's not just a CEO believing something and just saying yes, let's go for it. It doesn't work like that. So these are other factors that I just like to put out there. Finally, in my last talk, I did say if this trend continues, and I expected it would continue, that I would look at mid-June, something like that. Now, I'm looking at Vulcan now, and really it's, for me, do your own homework. This is not advice. This is my own personal view. For me, that top-up trigger is very, very close. It may actually be this week. I think there's an excellent opportunity to be had, especially at this value. I'm a long-term investor. I'm not a trader. Given what I mentioned to you about information being released to the stock exchanges, information being released to the market in general, the communications and being kept updated by the company, and what I mentioned to you about the various levels of due diligence that are conducted behind the scenes, come to your own conclusion. But from my side, Vulcan Energy Resources is looking super, super tasty at the moment, and it's up to you whether you like that kind of thing or not. So thanks for watching this. I hope it's useful. I hope it creates debate. And I'd like the counter view. Please, I'd like the counter view. I mean, I think one of the last short sellers that put out a report on Vulcan literally had to be, after making mistakes, severe mistakes, including, I think, posting the wrong photo of a chairman. I mean, to that level. I mean, they had to issue a public retraction on what they said regarding Vulcan's processes and conduct. So again, this is evidence. I'm not saying one way or the other, but when a short seller has to retract its entire report because of sloppy analysis, that's a sign. Still be cognizant of market trends. There are risks out there. There's fear in the market, without a doubt. But I've run this before. I've been in companies that have halved, that have dropped more than half, for no other reason, simply that there's momentum dropping, and other investors start to hit their stop losses. There's a rule. Some investors say, "Oh, if my stock drops 20%, that's my stop loss, and I will just sell." That works, I think, in my view and experience, with more conventional stocks. With the early stage stocks, call it the small caps or mid caps, I don't think it's a rule personally that works for me. Otherwise, you'd be just selling all the time, stop lossing with that kind of movement. So you've got something called momentum trading. It's self-fulfilling. Oh, something has gone down. Oh, better sell. There must be some news out there. Okay, sell again, and then another stop loss hit. Sell again. So it's just about bottoming that out. And normally, one of the key signs of that process bottoming out and flattening is the volume of trade. So if you're in a market and that particular stock has millions of shares traded every day, and then you see this decline, but now it's declining based on volume and the tens of thousands, for example, rather than the millions, then that is a sign that momentum movement, the selling has bottomed. So have your discussions. I'm happy to engage. Please put in your comments. This is all about learning. It's all about sharing. And it's all about benefiting each other to see how we do. And wish you a good week ahead. And once again, based on what I see, good luck, Vulcan Resources. I think it's going to be an exciting couple of years. And hope to see you soon. Thanks.